I'll be going over how you can make a practice plan for a day and then also a practice plan for the entire week. So this doesn't just have to be for a practice, it can also be for a weight program or any sort of program where you need to plan out days and time periods within those days. But for now, I'll just do a football practice for each day of the week for 4 different days. And once we get through day 2, 3, and 4, those are going to get pretty repetitive pretty quickly. So the main stuff here is just going to be on day 1. So to start, I'm going to set it up where each column is a different position. And to do so, I'm going to go into the second row because the first row is going to be the day that I'm looking at. So this first row will say day 1, which could be a Monday for you, it could be a Sunday. However you want to do that, it doesn't really matter. I'll just label it day 1. So in column A here is going to be my time component. So this is where I'm going to be putting out the time parts to it. Column B is through C, D, E, F, G, H are going to be my positions. So for column B, I will go O-line, and then RB, QB, wide receivers. And again, if you hit tab after you're done writing, that's just going to move the cell 1 over to the right. D-line, tab, linebacker, tab, and secondary, so DB, tab. Enter. Takes you to here. And at the top, very top here, I wanted to keep this nice and organized, so I'm going to highlight all of the cells from A through H. Come up here to this little double arrow which says merge and center. I'm going to click that, and what that does is it turns all those individual cells into one big cell. So here, I'm going to just put day 1, and you can label that Monday, Tuesday, whatever. You can also go day 1, focus on technique, let's say. So the time component, I want the time here, and I'm going to sort them into 5-minute blocks. So each cell is going to be composed of a 5-minute period. So from cells 3 and 4, I'm going to highlight them and hit this merge and center button, and then I'm going to come up to this A and B, hit the arrow, and it's going to be wrap text. I don't even need to hit the arrow. I can just hit this A, B, and now I can go 0 to 10, enter. And I don't necessarily need the wrap text. What that does though is with it, if I really close this cell, it'll go where it goes over top of each other. If I didn't do the wrap text, or if I unclick it, you can kind of see it, but not really. If I make it smaller and smaller, you won't. Whereas if I wrap the text, you still won't see all of it, but you can see more of it. So I'm going to bring this back out. And now, because all of the positions are going to warm up together as a team, I'm going to highlight that entire block of all the position groups for both 3 and 4. Then I am going to hit the merge and center and type in warm up. Hit enter. And now I want a 15-minute period that is composed of a special teams open field tackling circuit. So I'm going to highlight a 5 through 7, come up to merge and center, and I'm going to put in 10-25. And there's going to be a problem here as it shows up as the date. And if I click on it, it's because they're putting the date as 10/25 or October 25th. And the reason for that is the way I typed the date and the time period in. So if I click in it, delete, to undo that, I'm going to put in the single quotation mark, and then I'm going to put in 10-25. And what this single quotation mark is going to do is it'll actually disappear in here, and it'll just show the 10 to 25, but the single quotation keeps whatever you're writing as exactly how you wrote it, and it won't change the format on you. So if I hit enter, now it's 10 to 25, and there's no single quotation. So if you ever have something where you put in like a time period and it changes the format, just put in the single quotation and that will help. So I want 3 5-minute periods in the circuit. So I'm going to highlight this entire row here, merge and center, and go open field tackling circuit station 1. And then I'm going to merge and center all of them for row 6, and then merge and center for the entire row 7. Now I'm going to drag down this one, and as you can see, the number actually changes. And how you do this in practice would maybe be that the O-line are in one group, RBs are in another, wide receivers are in another, and then you just rotate it in a clockwise fashion. But for ease of practice planning, I'm just going to keep it like this, knowing that they're going to rotate throughout the stations. And then for day 1 here, because my focus is on technique, I'm going to do a really long indie period. So I'm going to do a half-hour indie period, which means because each one of these is 5 minutes, I'm going to need 6. So that's going to be 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Highlight all of those, merge and center, and I'm going to put in single quotation 25 to 55, enter. And now you can get really specific here. You could go 10 minutes of, say, outside zone footwork, 10 minutes of inside zone footwork, 10 minutes of pass pro. But I'm just going to keep it pretty generic and allow the indie coach to have a lot of say on what we're ultimately doing. So I'm going to highlight all of them for the O-line, merge and center, and then we are going to just put in indie, and then the same thing for all of the other position groups. And I'm going to assume here we are a team that needs all of our players to play both ways. So I'm going to have blanks on the defensive side and blanks on the offensive side, depending on the period we're in. So like I said, we could go and put in a focus, say for running backs on vision, or quarterbacks on footwork, or receivers on blocking, whatever it is. But right now I'm just going to say I really trust the position coaches and give them 30 minutes if they need to work whatever we need to. And then we are going to go 55 through 65 as a quick offensive walkthrough of any new plays we're adding this week. So again, I'm going to highlight A14, A15, merge and center, and go single quotation 55-65. And now I'm going to highlight B through E14 and B through E15, merge and center, and go new play walkthrough, and then hit enter. And now we're going to say that's good for the offensive practice for the day. And now I just want a little bit more special teams and some defense. So now I'm going to say we'll do another 15-minute special teams circuit. So I'm going to highlight A16 through A18 again, merge and center, single quotation 65 through 80. And I'm going to highlight each individual row again, merge and center. Do that for all 3 here. Again, each block I'm saying is a 5-minute period, so that when you look at it, you can see the bigger blocks are longer in time. And now we're going to say we're doing returns here, so it's going to be just say special teams blocking station 1, station 2, station 3. And then that means we're at 80 minutes, that's a minute 20. And now I want a half hour of defensive indie. So again, I need to highlight 6 cells here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Merge and center, single quotation, 80 through 110, enter. And now we're going to come over to the defensive side here, which is going to be F. And then I'm going to highlight F19 through F24. And as you can see on the very left side here, when these cells are highlighted, the numbers here are also highlighted, which is going to make it really easy when you're over here to make sure you have dragged it down enough cells, because from 19 to 24 are in green right here, which also match how far this time period goes down. So I'm going to go merge and center, and we are going indie, and the same thing with all the other position groups, indie and indie. And here quarterbacks will also be an indie, so I will highlight the quarterbacks for indie. And now we're at an hour 50, and we're going not to do conditioning. We're not going to do anything at the end of practice other than a 10-minute defensive walkthrough of any new plays or adjustments to formation. So again, I'll highlight the 2 cells here, merge and center, and single quotation, 110 to 120. Highlight all of the defensive positions for both 5-minute blocks, merge and center, defensive formation walk through. And then we will give a 5-minute, at the end of practice, a 5-minute block for positional coach discussion and stretch. So here I will just go 120 to 125, and for the entire offensive position group, I'll highlight that, and then put positional coach stretch and talk. But that doesn't really make sense for what I'm wanting. I want to make sure that each position is separated here. So to do that, I'm going to unhit the merge and center, and then I'm going to drag that across all 4 position groups. And now you can see this position coach stretch and talk is really getting out of hand. You can't really read what it is, as well as the time periods are kind of tight here. So I'm going to highlight the entire A through H up here for the column, and then wherever my cursor gets to this thick black thing with the arrow on either side, I'm just going to double click, and that ends up widening everything out to the longest it needs to be. So because this positional coach stretch and talk is the longest text, then that's the longest each column is going to be. The exception here is here, where it says defensive formation walkthrough. Because it takes up multiple columns, double clicking isn't going to get it wide enough. So I'm going to highlight F, G, and H, because if you highlight all 3 and then move your cursor to this black with a double arrow and widen it, that's going to widen all 3 of those columns to the same distance. So if I take H2 out, I don't know, about 12 maybe, so we're at 12, and that is wide enough here. It's actually a little too wide, but that's okay for now. So that's a singular day practice plan. It looks okay now. It's going to be kind of hard to follow. So I'm going to use some borders and some highlighting stuff to make this easier. So day 1, I am going to bulb, and it's going to take a second here, and now that's bulbed. The time period and positional groups I don't need to do anything to. All the text I'm not going to change, but I want to border around the entire practice plan. So I'm going to highlight the entire practice plan here, and then I'm going to come up to the border button underneath the text, hit the arrow, and do outside borders. And that's going to give me a nice border around everything. I also want all of the text in the very center of the cells, both up and down and left to right. So I'm going to highlight everything here. Then I'm going to come up to where these little tick marks are, and I'm going to click the middle one for all three. The top one is the height. So if I go to the left, that's going to put everything on the very top. The one on the right puts everything on the bottom, middle, middle. And I want the text in the middle, so I'm going to put the bottom one in the middle. If you wanted it to be centered to the left, you can move it to the left. But I don't like that one quite as much, so I'm going to put it in the middle. So that makes it look a little bit better now, but I want each block to be clearly identifiable. So to do that, I'm going to go to the day one focus technique and put in a bottom border. I'll do the same thing for each position. I'll highlight all the position and the time and do a bottom border. And then for each block, I'm going to do that as well. So I'm going to highlight the 0 to 10, come over, and this entire warm-up period is highlighted. I'll put in a bottom border, and I'll do that for each of these periods. So as you can see, we are starting to get a nice flow of how this practice plan will work by using the borders. But here, because I don't have anything in the immediate cell after, I could put in a bottom border and it will look like that. And that's actually okay. I don't love it, I don't hate it, but I don't want to do that, so I'll just undo it for now. So instead, I'll highlight that cell, cell D, and then cell FGH, bottom border. And then the same thing with the 110 to 120. Just like so. But now I want to make sure that these are clearly blank periods. So I'm going to put in a right border on the very far right of these. So come up to the border, right border. And then here, for these ones, I want the left border. So come and do left border, ND, left border, but I also need a right border here. And then for the time periods, I want a border in all of it. So I'm going to go up all the way to the time and right border. So now we can kind of get a pretty good feel for this, but it's still not perfect. So I kind of want to color code everything where offense is one color and defense is another color. And to do that, it's going to be team is going to be one color. So we'll go team as a nice light yellow. All of the special teams are going to be a team period as well. And then this is offensive indie, so we'll highlight this as a nice light green. And I'll do the positions green as well. And then for the defense, we'll do a nice light blue. Now, if you're paying to print these off, I probably wouldn't color code it, at least not to this extent. And then the talk through is going to be the yellow. I wouldn't color code them if we're printing them off, just because that's going to cost quite a bit of money to do it, especially if each coach is getting their own copy. But for the purpose of this, to show an extra skill and to make it look a little better, we'll do this. And here I can see I don't have a border on the top here, so I'm going to actually go top border, put that in. And to make these blank periods really stand out, I'm going to select all the cells in them and hit merge and center. And what that's going to do is it's going to make it abundantly clear that we have nothing going on during these periods. For this. So if you had defense and offense and they could practice at the same time, you wouldn't have to worry too much about that. But for us coaches that do, this is one way to do it. Now I kind of want to make sure all the position coaches or all the positions are separated out where they need to. And to do that, for each indie period here, I'm just going to put in a border. So again, I'll go right border, right border, right border. And now we can kind of easily see where a team period is for the defense, or a team period for the offense, or an entire team period versus where individual group periods are. So that's how you can do 1 day of practice planning. And now to do another day, you can either copy and paste this if you want a similar time period structure on it, or you can copy and paste certain bits and pieces of it. For instance, this part at the very top, you're probably going to want on every single day. So I'm going to go Command C on the Mac to copy it, and I'm going to paste it once for day 2, day 3, and day 4. And then I'm going to change the text here and the focus as well. I'm not going to bother doing all of that here. So this will be day 3, and this will be day 4. And now I can change the time periods. I want this 10-minute warm-up period for every practice. So I'll copy and paste it. And as you can see, when I paste it, it changes the individual cells into a merged and center cell. It also keeps all of the highlighting and the borders, so it keeps all of the formatting rules when you copy and paste it, which is very nice and easy. And I'm going to keep this special teams period. We're just going to change the wording on it, but it'll be faster for me to copy and paste it. And here we can go, I want to keep open field tackling every single day, except for this day 4 here, where I'm going to merge and center to get rid of it, and then merge and center, cancel, delete. And now these are all individual cells, so I'm going to select all of them, merge and center, and just go special teams walkthrough. But I want open field tackling every day. I think that's important. And then again, we can follow the similar procedure for this, where now maybe day 2 is going to be a compete period day, so we have 15 minutes, so I'll select 3 cells, merge and center, dash 25 through 40, and then another 15-minute period after. So I'm going to select the 3, merge and center, quote, 40 through 55, and then a 10-minute period, merge and center, 55 through 65, and here I could have copied and pasted that, and it would have been better because I actually had a typo here. So for O-line running backs, maybe we do a press the hole, or like in Oklahoma if you're really old school, or some sort of very competitive but inside run blocking drill. I really don't want to get into ethics or what the actual drills you guys are running into practice are, but I'll just say Oklahoma, since that's a very old school O-line running back drill. And then QB running, or QB receivers, I'll highlight those 2, merge and center, and do 7-on-7. And then we'll come down to here, and maybe we'll do some one-on-ones. So for each position group, I'll merge and center each single one. And then here for quarterback and receiver, I'll keep them combined again and do pass, pro, one-on-one, hit tab, pass, pro, one-on-one, and then tab, and pass, one-on-one, enter. And here you can't really see these very well, so I'm actually going to hit the merge and center button, and that's going to allow you to see all of the text nice and easily there. I don't really like how it has one and then on the bottom on one, so to fix that, I'm actually just going to go up to this text bar and space it out a little bit until it's like that, and I'll copy it and then paste it for the running back since it's the same thing. And then for all of the offense, we'll do a 10-minute, I'm Canadian, so 12 on 12. You American coaches will go 11 on 11, all team. And then special teams, pretty much the same thing. Instead of blocking, I'll do onside recovery, station 1, kick, return, blocking, station 1, and punt return, blocking, station 1. And then for defense, maybe we'll have some compete on this day again. So we'll go 2 15-minute periods. So 3 cells, merge and center, 3 cells, merge and center. This is going to be equal to, so 80 to 95 and 95 to 110. And then come over and we'll do D-line, merge and center, linebacker, merge and center, and DB, merge and center. And we will go pass, pro, space, 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 1 on 1. I didn't put enough spaces in here, so go up to the text bar and in between, just hit space, hit the wrap text, this AB thing, and then linebacker will be routes 1 on 1. I don't like that, so I'll wrap the text, come up here to the text, space it out until it matches how I want, and I want the same thing for my DBs, so copy and paste. And then here, maybe we'll do an inside run compete period with a D-line at linebacker, so I'll highlight the 3 cells for both position groups, merge and center, inside run, compete, and DBs will be zone coverage, 7 on 7. And because it does that, I'll wrap the text and then space for the 7 on 7 to be together. Then the 10-minute defensive team period, select the 2 cells, merge and center, 110 to 120. Highlight the 3 position groups for both 5-minute blocks, merge and center, D, team, walk through, and then a 5-minute positional coach talk and stretch, which will be 120 to 125. I'll hide for each individual one, I'll do it, and I'll just copy and paste here, but I don't want the formatting on it, so I'm going to copy. I'll come here, I'll right click, paste special, and then I'll paste the value only. And that means I got rid of the highlighting, and I'll just drag this across all 3. And now similarly, I'll highlight P through I, double click once I get the little icon to get everything spaced out. And because these bottom ones are so long, I no longer needed the wrap text here, but for here, because I don't have the positional coach thing at the bottom, which is really long, I needed the wrap text. And because these take up 2 columns, when double clicking doesn't get them wide enough, so I'll highlight them, both L and M, space them out, and there we go. And now these kind of look stupid because of this, so I'll come into it and go in the text bar, highlight the spaces, and delete them to make them look a little bit more professional. And then you can highlight it the same way we highlighted them before, where these are going to be a light green, and then these will be all a light blue, and these will be a light yellow. And then we can add the borders in as well as we need to, but I showed how you can do the borders previously, so to save some time, I'll just merge and center these, and then merge and center these to make them all look really nice. And I probably should have put QB throwing, but the QB could also be throwing in these things. And as you can see here, these blocks really do not look good without the borders on them. So it's probably best to put the borders on, as that'll just really clean up everything you're doing to make it look a lot better and make it easier to see when you're out on the field. So I'm not going to go through day 3 and day 4 because pretty much everything you need to do them I showed on day 1 and day 2. But as always, if you have any questions or anything like that, just post in the comments on here and I'll try to get some answers for you. So this is how you can do practice planning in Excel to make your practices look better and look professional, and easily format them in a table kind of way. So this should help you make your practice plans in a shorter period of time, especially once you know what you want, where you want it. So thanks for watching.